We're going to create a weave that has been created using a simple plain weave. To do this, set up your weaving needle with the colour of thread that you would like to start with, and we're going to go through our warp threads in a pattern of over one, under one, over one, under one, over one, under one, and you continue this pattern all the way to the end of your row. And as you can see here, I have actually left a little bit of length there hanging out at the end. Don't put it all the way through. You can leave that little bit of length there, and we will tie that off when we finish our weave. You continue your pattern over one, under one until you get to the end of the row. Then you're going to come back doing the opposite of what you did in that previous row. Going over one, under one, over one, under one, all the way along again until you get to the other end. And you continue this going backwards and forwards with your plain weave pattern. And remember that when you do your weft going across, you need to then push them down to the bottom so they're in a really nice straight row. And you do this each time you thread your weft threads all the way through in your pattern. Push them down to the bottom so they're really nice and straight and compact next to each other. You can change your colours as you go, and you can alternate your colours whenever you want, depending on how thick you want your stripes. So when you've decided you want to change colour, you just take out your thread of your needle from your thread and you rethread it with another colour, and you can continue your pattern with your other colour. Again, you can leave the threads hanging on the edge there, and we can tie them up after we've finished our weave. As you can see here, we've already created some pattern using a weave. At the bottom there you've got the purple and the yellow stripes, and then we've gone on to creating some square blocks of colour. Again, I'm still just using the plain weave, but just only going across a few of those warp threads and coming back and forward, creating a square. This blue thread here is now creating a stripe of plain weave, and you can see that we're going over and under, doing the plain weave pattern just with the blue thread there. And you see as we continue, we're going to change colour, and it'll show you how to do the different colour stripes. We're then going to come back down and show you how to fill in those gaps there that are in between the blocks of colour, and that will also show you how we create those squares of pattern. So you've seen now how we do the stripes of colour, and this is now showing you how you do the squares of colour. And as well as showing you how to do the square of colour, just going across 3 or 4 of the warp threads, you can see here when you join a square, you have to go in between the threads of the square that is next to it. As you can see here, we're going to split the threads on the yellow square, push that down, and then we're going to go in between those 2 wrapped threads there. And we're going to come back again, still sticking with the plain weave, coming through, and you'll see that the 2 squares then sort of interlock with each other and you've got no gap. From here we'll just continue filling in our 2 gaps there with different colours, and we'll then show you what the finished product will look like. Here we are, our finished weave. You can now see really clearly our nice stripes of colour and our squares of colour that are joined really nicely, interlocking in the middle there, so that you don't see any gaps between the colours. As you can see here, what we're doing is we're just finishing off our weave with some tassels, which are going to be at the bottom of our weave. And you can just take a selection of different coloured wool threads and you take a length of them, put them together, wrap them round one of the warp threads, tie it in a knot just like that, nice and tightly, pull it tight, and then push it up to push it up to exactly where your weave ends, and do that all the way along. And then you will see how we actually take it off of the card loom. And when you finish tying one end of your warp threads after you cut them off, you then do the other end. You cut the warp threads and you tie them up, and your weave is now off of your cardboard loom. Now you don't have to just create squares and stripes. There's lots of different patterns and shapes that you can include. As you see here, you could also include textures within your weave by adding loops and tassels and adding even more colour within those. Now it's time for you to experiment yourselves and see what you can create.